To really understand this, though, you need to understand a little bit of what actually happens in the villages and the kecamatan. You need to understand the cycle. The process starts with a big meeting, all the villages attending at the sub-district level to explain the rules of the game. What's happening, how much money, what can you spend it on, and to talk about what they've done in the past, especially if they've been in the project. They said they were going to do something. They said they were going to maintain it. Are they? They said they were going to use some money for revolving funds and women were going to repay it on a certain schedule. Are they? The villagers need to know this because some villages won't get their projects funded because the money's not enough. So it's a very open process to evaluate what you've done before. From the sub-district level, they go to the village and they do the same thing. They explain it to more people at the village level. And then there's a quite lengthy period when they go down to the dusun, to the hamlets, to the sub-village neighborhoods, and they meet with different groups, including women's groups, and they just talk to them about what are your needs, what are their priorities. There's some tools that are used to make it a little bit more systematic, to sort of assess what are the needs of the villagers, what are their priorities, and then there's some ranking at the lower level so that they can then come together at the village level and actually decide which are the key activities we want to send to the sub-district level so that all the villagers can review it and decide. And there's some hard negotiation here and some hard talk because they don't have to just convince themselves. They have to think about convincing all the other villagers. Before they meet at the village level, though, there's a special meeting just for the village women, no men allowed. And the village women get to decide on 2/3 of the projects that go forward. This isn't supposed to pit women against men. It's just to make sure they really have a voice. And our experience in the early days of KDP was women would attend the meetings a lot, but not speak a lot. But when you give them their own meeting, and they're only them at their meeting, then they speak a lot. And they express what they want, what they need. After the village decides on its priorities, then some people from the technical agencies of the local government and from other villages and the consultants, a small group of people will then go look at what they're proposing to make sure it really comes from the villagers and not from one person, to make sure they can really build it. It's not too complicated, it's not too big, and to help them think about how they might improve it as they go forward. After this verification process, all of the villages come together at the sub-district level again to rank the proposals from all the villages. The proposals at this stage are very simple, very short. They rank them. Who ranks them? 6 representatives from each village. Half of them have to be women, elected specifically for this purpose. One of the 6 is the village head. After the proposals are ranked, then the engineer, the facilitator, and other people help the villagers actually do detailed designs and to prepare a detailed budget. For the highest priorities for a poor kecamatan is usually about 3 billion rupiah a year. So they can eyeball, maybe we can do the first 14 projects, but not the other 30. And they do the designs for that because the designs take a lot of work. After they have the designs, the representatives of each village come back again at the sub-district level, look at the designs, divide up into teams, discuss them, then they decide, yes, these go forward. These will be funded. Based on their decision, the camat, because it's a government project, says yes or no. He makes a letter that says, I endorse this. He can't change anything. He can say no for the whole list, or he can say yes. He can endorse it. With that, then they can take money out of the local office of the National Treasury, and that money is transferred directly into a joint village account which is held at the sub-district level and managed by elected villagers. It's called the Village Activity Unit. They elect that early on in the process. The money is distributed to the villages, and they can start to build their roads and build their irrigation systems and their water systems. During that process, they have to meet 3 times at the village with lots of people to account for how much have they done and how much money have they spent. To increase accountability, to make sure people know what's happened with the money. When the project is finished, it's turned over to the village government. That's a normal annual cycle. That's the way it's happened most of the time. But we knew the project eventually. One of the early objectives of it was, let's make sure the Indonesian musrembang bottom-up planning process works. So in the early days, we didn't do that. But we knew eventually we'd have to. So now what's happened is that we're trying to make sure that what happens in PNPM rural and village priorities and what they build and so forth, it's incorporated, endorsed, and becomes formal in the village plan. And that village plan goes to the district level. So things they can't fund themselves, hopefully, will be funded or considered at least by the district government. So in a nutshell, that's the cycle. It's become much better known. People trust it. It's known, and it's across the country.